But what a beautiful segue. One Liberal member of the Liberal Party who, I'm going to embarrass him because that's what I enjoy doing, is often compared to Tony Abbott from people that I know, is, of course, Liberal Senator from South Australia, Alex Antic. And he joins us now. Alex, great to have you on the show. Good to see you. We've just been dissecting the election campaign. So we won't put you in the awkward position of saying what went terribly wrong. But do tell, Alex, what went terribly wrong in the election campaign?
Well, you've made me blush, Rowan, and my tie's turned red as a result of that. So thank you for that. Look, I think I was listening to what you were saying, and all of you, and I think each one of you had merit in the points you're making. I mean, it really is about courage, but there is such a big backstory, and then we don't have time for all of it today. But I just make this observation. This country has stopped, deifying the lifters, and now we are sort of almost putting the leaners on a pedestal in this country. We've become a big government country that's used to handouts. And I think there was a view inside the party that we need to pander to that and to outspend the Labor Party, so we lost the economic narrative, and also to run from the so-called culture wars and to run from, I guess, policies that really resonate with middle Australia, with ordinary Australians. And that comes from, I think, effectively just a lack of positioning ourselves for those people. I mean, this is not really about left and right, although I would say I think the party needs to shift back to the right. I've been quite open about that. But that's because I think the vast majority of Australians are centre-right voters, as The Voice showed, as you quite rightly pointed out. So my view is, as it's been for many, many years, here in South Australia, we have been restocking the shelves at membership level with people that share our values, true Liberals. They have been pre-selecting people who have been making their way to Parliament to the extent that they can. I mean, obviously elections, like we saw, don't allow every candidate to get through, but we had many, many of them. We had Leah Blythe, who I think you had on your show last week, who is doing some great work in the education space here, pushing back on that. We've had legislative councillors like Ben Hood. It's all about making sure that the Liberal Party is pre-selecting and supporting people with courage, people with true Liberal values, and you do that by getting involved. You know, the minor parties, who many of whom, and I don't wish to speak ill of them because I know many of the people involved with the minor parties in this country, they mean well, they speak the right language, but they're never, ever, ever going to be parties of government. This is the reality of the minor Conservative Party movement in this country. Is it's a little bit like eating a violet crumble for dinner. You feel like you've eaten dinner, you've got the sugar rush, but in actual fact, you haven't done anything substantive. We've got to get true Liberals back to the Liberal Party, pre-selecting strong, true Liberal candidates and getting them into Parliament.
Violet crumbles for dinner, those were the days.
Sounds fantastic. I'm in for that. But how do you, at the very least, if you can't absorb those people back into the party and really have the broad church that is spoken about, how can you have some preference discipline amongst those right-leaning? Because we see with the Greens, there's great discipline with their preferences going to Labor. But with those centre-right minor parties, the preferences are all over the shop. And the Liberals, the coalition, isn't really getting the net benefit there.
No, and you're right. And, of course, we haven't seen any, purchase coming out of the minor Conservative parties. We haven't seen, I think, One Nation haven't increased their numbers and aren't likely to at this election. So it is a bit of a scattergun. What it does is it takes not only the enthusiasm, the manpower, and I guess the candidates away from the Liberal Party, but it also does, as you say, spray the preferences. And this is one of the issues. I mean, the left are inherently collectivists. They do everything with purpose, and the Greens and Labor do work hand in glove in many instances, as has the Teal movement, frankly. I mean, that has been part of this picture, whereas on the right of politics, and this is exactly what Menzies did back in the 40s, by the way, is he saw the same problem arising and got everybody under the same banner saying, look, you're all going to have to take a haircut on your values. Libertarians, you're not going to get everything you want. Religious conservatives, you're not going to get everything you want, but we're better together than apart. And that's been the fine balance of the Liberal Party over the years. My view is it's like a game of football. You're only ever going to get a red team and a blue team on the field. The blue team is the only vehicle which is going to save this country. To save Australia, we need to save the Liberal Party.
Caroline.
You heard us talking, Alex, about the net zero target and how we think that needs to be abandoned for the Liberals to have any chance of winning. What's your view on this, and what do you think that the new leadership of the Liberal Party is going to do?
Well, first of all, I mean, I think myself and Matt Canavan might have been the only two coalition members at the time when it was adopted by the Morrison government to speak out about it. I mean, I've never had any time for the net zero concept. I think it's completely flawed. I think it's detrimental to our country and it's detrimental to our sovereign interests, and it doesn't make any sense apart from anything else. We're 1.2% of the world's carbon emissions. Why are we doing this? You know, if you look at other countries that are energy rich, they wouldn't even go near it. So that's my very clear view. I've had it for a very long time. As to what's going to happen, I don't know. I really don't know. But I think the only way this party is going to appeal to the electorate is to dump net zero. We have to do it. And I hope that's the case. I hope we see it. I mean, Ted O'Brien did some great work with nuclear, along the way. And part of that, I think, was couched in the kind of energy forum. We have to keep pushing along with that, but it's more than just simply nuclear. As Matt Canavan said, we've got other energy sources in this country that need to be properly used, and we have to drown out those voices of net zero, the voices of the Paris Agreement. It's all harmful for this country.
Now, Alex, I want to ask you about, I'm going to be talking about it later in the next hour of the show, but the unrealised super tax. So this idea that the tax office will decide what the earnings in your super. If you happen to have a self-managed super fund, for example, you might have some farmland in there, or you might have shares or assets or property, whatever. The tax office goes, oh, well, that's now worth X more than it was a year ago, so we're going to tax you on that. Now, this idea, it began with Joe Biden. It's to my mind, it is capitalism in reverse. It's it's creating a profit that isn't there and then taxing you on it. Whereas surely the entire point of our capitalist system is that you make money for yourself, and then once that money is there, you give some of it to the tax office to help the country run well. How can the coalition, and what did the coalition need to do to really fight this tax, Alex?
Well, we need to resist it. We need to speak against it, obviously, is my view. And I mean, this is the big government Ponzi scheme we've entered into. I mean, Labor governments really have no way of creating wealth, so they have to take it from somewhere else. That's what we're going to see here. And this won't be alone, by the way. There will be other grabs on your cash. I still hear stories from farming families of years ago of death duties and what that would do to capital, asset-rich, cash-poor families at the time. This could be devastating for this country. And look, I mean, it's just there are many grounds upon which to fight. One of them is economic. There are others in the cultural space as well. And I'm a bit sick of hearing people saying we shouldn't fight the culture wars. Well, they started it, by the way. So what do you mean we're not going to fight that? But in this issue, this is probably the preeminent economic issue, I think, of the next 3 years. But what I'm concerned about is what else is out there as well. I mean, if you're going to fund a big government term, or then you need to fund it, and you need to find ways in which to get the capital away from hard-working people. That's what we're going to see.
There was Murray Watt was interviewed just beforehand, and he made a little telling comment. I don't have the words precisely, but he said something about, well, it won't be quite as concessional as it used to be. The idea being that, well, the government is not going to give you quite as much back as the government always gave you. So this idea, Alex, that the Labor Party and the left have, that all the money in the country is their money and that they're just letting you have bits of it, as opposed to the idea that it's our money and we're letting the government have bits of it. Is that a fair analysis of the difference between left and right?
Well, I hope so. I mean, we have to, from my side of politics, resist the temptation to outspend and tax, and we have to be brave on this. We haven't seen a lot of reform in politics for many, many years. There is a school of thought that the electorate needs to go through these bad times in order to understand what this actually means. I hope that's not true. I don't think that's true. I think we should have sold a better case in order to avoid that this time round. But look, I think we saw that with the super scheme in many respects. I mean, as my friend Senator Gerard Rennick would always say, it's people's money. It's not your money to the other side of the chamber. He would say it all the time, and it always resonated with me. This is not just a honeypot for governments and bureaucrats to sink their claws into. This is real Australians, real money for their real savings. And the whole purpose of it was to get them off the government system once they retire, not to fund all sorts of other big government projects, which is what we're seeing.
Really?
We've got the union movement emboldened like never before. They're not going to waste this landslide victory by Labor. They're threatening to shut down the country, shut down Australian transport, and saying, there's nothing wrong with being militant. How do you see that progressing? Are they just going to get what they want, or is Albanese capable of standing up to them?
Well, I guess we're entering into that territory of what ifs now, aren't we? In a little way, because really all we need in the Senate is for the Labor and the Greens to agree to come to a deal, and they pretty much have control of all of the levers. Now, with it, that brings a whole lot of problems. We're seeing that with the Prime Minister and his own internal machinations with some problems with ministries, and I suppose we're going to see that with the union movement as well. I mean, they will be clambering for the spoils like everybody else will be. We've heard a lot about this Prime Minister and how, he's reported in the Australian, he's been able to tame the factions. Well, that hasn't historically been a very successful thing to say out loud from the Labor movement in this country. Let's see. I think these are the sorts of problems you get. There's the story of Icarus flying too close to the sun comes to mind. We all know what happened to poor old Icarus. So let's see how the Prime Minister goes taming the various union movements.
Yeah, but Icarus never got to go in the chairman's lounge. Just remember that. Caroline.
Alex, Susan Lee, and we should acknowledge she lost her mother over the weekend as well, so our thoughts go out to her with that. But there has been a lot of speculation about whether she is going to have the party support all the way up to the next election, and whether she has what it takes to maintain the leadership to that point. What's your view?
Well, I mean, Susan's the leader, and yes, I should reiterate that. Condolences to her. I haven't had a chance to speak to her, but that's awful news. So that's straight off the bat. But look, I mean, I think there's a lot of water to go. There's a lot of, I guess, difficult conversations to be had. Susan's the leader, and we would expect that would continue on. I should say from the outset I voted for Angus because I think Angus is an extremely capable person. I would have voted for Jacinta as well. But Susan's the leader. We support the leader, and we wish her well. And I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do. I think it's as simple as that. I think she's got some qualities to bring to the table that are going to surprise people, and let's see where it goes. But, one thing we don't need is I guess, ructions in the party room. It's a difficult enough business as it is. So let's hope that things are smooth sailing as they can be.
Well, talking about those ructions, we're already seeing leakings and briefings against MPs. Fairfax Papers running with a hit piece on Jacinta Price saying that there were Liberal MPs who were upset that she didn't run for that deputy position once Angus didn't get the leadership. How do you see that? If there is to be unity, how do you bring those factions together? Because I can understand why someone who's done the work Senator Price has done would be pretty disheartened to see people within the party briefing against her.
Look, yeah, I don't know. I haven't read the article, but I mean, I can understand why she didn't. I mean, the numbers just would not have been there, so there wasn't much point, I suppose, in standing. So I totally understand that. As to the question of how it's all kept together, well, I mean, John Howard did it. We expect. Look, I don't want to go through the old hackneyed statement of it's a broad church. I mean, it may not be helpful at this point, but we are always, as I said, Menzies always intended this party to be sort of a conglomerate of a various different number of ideas. There are always going to be, tensions, I guess, in that space. And, once again, we have to, as a movement, I think, take some sort of lead from the Labor movement and the left in this country, who seem to do, hold their line very effectively on keeping those tensions a little bit behind closed doors. That's one of the problems with the Liberal Party, is that because we're a bit more open, we have our pre-selections in a bit more of a democratic manner. A lot of these tensions, I suppose, get aired. But, as the Howard era shows, we're better off together than apart. And the country needs us. I mean, I think this is the bottom line, is the only thing that can save this country from the sort of things we saw in the United Kingdom in the early 80s is a Liberal Party that's functioning properly. So, I mean, that's the message that's got to be here. But, I maintain we do want the Liberal Party to be successful. We have to. There is no other alternative, and it just has to work.
I agree, and that broad church only works when the central pillar of the broad church, Alex, in my opinion, is opposition to socialism. That's what the party was founded on. Net zero is socialism. It's pretty simple to me. Alex Antic, always great to chat to you, and we'll speak again soon. Thanks, mate.